Hey everybody, so today I'm going to talk about stress. Um, Basically, one of the classes that I've taken in college is it was called Psychology of Stress and Coping, and so I'm just gonna share with you some of the tips that um, what I learned during that class. And it was actually a class that I took about a year ago, but it had very useful things in it, and I'll just like sum up some of the very useful things. So basically, when a situation of stress occurs, which occurs like whenever there's a change, it can be positive or it can be negative, and most of us would say, when we're saying that we're stressed, we're usually, meaning that it's a negative effect. We're feeling uncomfortable with it. So, obviously, when stress occurs, we have to try and figure out how to deal with it. So, we can look at the situation and think about what we can change, or we have to basically change the way that we look at the situation about what's happening. So, basically there's like all sorts of ways that people cope, and in some ways the coping mechanisms can be healthy, and some ways they're unhealthy. um, there are some things like the unhealthy ones. Some of them are very obvious to people, like people have like unhealthy addictions that are bad for them, like drinking too much alcohol, um, more than what's considered more than moderately. And there's like classifications if you look it up online. Like, I think it's over 4 or 5 drinks per time. I don't know, it's online. But sometimes, and then a lot of people would say denial is a bad coping mechanism, but I was actually surprised because in the class, like, if there's not something you can do in the situation, then in some ways denial was said to be okay. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe that. But yeah, but usually it's not the way of going about things, because in many cases, you know, things can be figured out. It's just like problem solving. So say there's this situation, and then you have to think about like what are the solutions, what and what would be the effects of different things that you could do, different ways you could handle it. It's either that, or you change your perception of it, the way you're thinking about it, and that's like psychological, right? But a simple way to look at it is, you know, try to think the best of things. Like, usually in everybody's life, there's always like negative and positive, and people struggle with like different things. It's normal, you know? So, being optimistic is very important. I actually read something about optimism, like extending the time of a person's life longer uh, than like some other things. And I'm not looking at it right now, so I can't like tell you exactly what it was over, but it was like actually pretty surprising, um, how being optimistic really extends somebody's life. It really does. So, being appreciative of what you have, and taking your focus off of like negative things that are happening can really affect the level of stress that you're dealing with. Another thing that I learned was that, like, basically when you exercise, you feel like um, the class kind of got like a little bit medical, but to sum it up, it's almost like a stress response. So when you go to exercise, you might, what is it, your heart rate goes up, and then it could get uncomfortable, but always work out anyways, right? But so it might be uncomfortable and you're sweating, and that's almost like a stress response. Now, if your body um, associates the stress response with exercise, it means that, and it's actually normal, it said it in the class, but it means that basically when you actually get stressed. Say you're driving, and then you know, and you're in traffic, and you know you're getting stressed. Um, you won't really notice the stress as much if you regularly exercise. But if you don't regularly exercise, and then you might actually feel the stress more. And also, exercising regularly can make it so that you have like the endorphins, and you'll just feel happier like most of the time, as compared to individuals that don't exercise as much. Um, so, you know, summing it up, you know, it's the way you look at it, your perception. And, you know, the first thing to do is usually just try to figure out if there's anything you can do about it. And if not, then try to change the way you look at it, or do both things if you can. And I hope this helps. All right, have a great day, everybody.